The snickers started before she even loaded the rifle. Jokes about her grip, her stance, the way she adjusted her earmuffs. Cadets whispered as if she couldn't hear, as if she wasn't supposed to belong. No one offered advice. No one expected precision. But when the timer clicked and the range went hot, she didn't flinch. She steadied her breath, exhaled once and fired. One shot, center mass, cold silence. They mocked her before the shot, but when they saw the target, no one laughed. They just stood there frozen because she hadn't missed. By the time Lena Torres arrived at Fort Willoughby, she had already memorized the range commands, wind correction charts, and 5 different bolt-action models, none of which she had ever actually fired. She wasn't there because someone believed in her. She was there because someone finally relented. The Advanced Marksmanship Trial Program wasn't designed for people like Lena. It was built for legacy recruits, sons and daughters of decorated officers. Cadets handpicked from competitive academies, veterans turned instructors. Lena didn't have that. What she had was a paper-thin waiver, a spotless written exam, and the quiet determination of someone who'd had to earn her place 3 times before sunrise. She wasn't from a military family. She was raised by a single father who worked security at a warehouse in Albuquerque, a man who taught her early how to hold a flashlight like a baton and how to walk fast through empty parking lots. The rest, she taught herself, hours spent studying trajectory paths, assembling makeshift trigger groups from disassembled air rifles, and watching slow-motion firing drills on borrowed library computers. What she lacked in pedigree, she made up for in control, stillness, focus, calculation. But still, when she walked onto the range that first morning, silence turned heads. She didn't wear the latest tactical gear. Her jacket was clean but secondhand. Her boots were regulation but clearly not broken in, and her face painted. Unreadable was marked more by observation than eagerness. There were 15 other cadets in the cohort, 12 of them men, all of them taller, louder. One of them, Cadet Rickson, made no attempt to whisper. Didn't know we were doing community outreach now, he said as she unpacked her gear. Lena didn't respond. She folded her mat, set her rifle down, aligned it without a word. Another cadet, Travis, maybe leaned in toward Rickson. "Bet she's never fired live. Watch her flinch at the recoil." Lena heard it. They wanted her to, but she didn't turn. Instead, she checked the chamber, adjusted the scope, and ran through her mental checklist like clockwork. She didn't need to prove anything, not yet. The program was brutal. The first week was theory and dry fire drills. The second introduced live ammo at short distances. It was then that the mockery shifted from snide comments to strategic exclusion. They paired up for spotting rotations. Lena was always the odd one out. When instructors asked for volunteers to demonstrate corrections, no one called on her. When others fired, the spotting scope was passed quickly. But when it was her turn, it was mysteriously unavailable. It wasn't official. It wasn't loud, but it was constant. Even Sergeant O'Halloran, the lead range instructor, seemed indifferent. He called on the others by name. He gave them feedback, shoulder claps, critiques. With Lena, it was always procedural. Shooter ready. Fire when ready. Cease fire. That was it. No feedback, no correction, just process. And yet, every shot Lena took landed where it needed to, not perfectly, but close. Consistently, still. The quiet burned. She kept a journal every night, noting wind drift, barrel temperature, drop rate, not for validation, for survival. Data didn't care about perception. But on the 12th day, something changed. They were running a staggered fire test. Each cadet had to hit a target at 800 yards after a 200-meter sprint uphill, mimicking real-world conditions of stress, fatigue, and environmental pressure. Lena's name was called last. The sprint wasn't the problem. She wasn't the fastest. But her breathing was controlled by the time she hit the prone position. She had already calculated the wind push at elevation. She lined up, waited. Rickson, watching from behind the observation scope, scoffed. "Let's see her miss under pressure." Lena heard it, still didn't flinch. She adjusted, exhaled, fired. The metallic ping of target impact rang out clean. No delay. Center hit. And for the first time, Someone cursed instead of laughed. O'Halloran checked the monitor, then looked again, then looked at her. He didn't say anything, but something had shifted. That night, Lena found a slip of paper tucked into her locker. Handwritten, no name. Not bad under pressure. Still think you got lucky. Prove it wasn't. She didn't recognize the handwriting. She didn't need to. The message was clear. The real test hadn't started. But now, someone was watching. Over the next days, Lena kept rising. Not in noise but in score. She stopped being invisible. And that came with consequences. Her scope was tampered with. Twice, the adjustment dial reset to 0 between drills. The third time, her rifle went missing for half an hour before being found behind the gear shed. She said nothing, logged it, adapted. She began double-checking everything, bringing backups, logging timestamps. She didn't retaliate. She didn't retreat. She just got better. And O'Halloran, he noticed, at the end of week 3, he handed her a sealed envelope. Final evaluation range. Tomorrow morning. You're up first. She nodded. Yes, Sergeant. He paused. Then, don't miss. Inside the envelope were coordinates, conditions, loadout requirements, and one final note. No second tries. This wasn't just a test. It was the shot that would decide her place, not just in the program, but in the eyes of every person who thought she didn't belong. The sun hadn't yet risen when Lena stepped onto the evaluation range. The mountains were still shadows. The sky was a pale wash of early gray, and frost clung to the grass in sheets like fragile armor. She wore her standard fatigues. No flash, no flex, just function. Her rifle, checked 3 times, was precisely calibrated, clean bore, zeroed scope, every bolt tightened by her own hand. The test was simple on paper. One shot, one target, one opportunity. But the challenge was crafted for exposure designed to reveal not just skill, but judgment under pressure. The target would appear for 5 seconds. It would be partially obscured by environmental cover. There would be wind variable. And most important, the target would be human-shaped. No scoring rings, just an outline, just the weight of choice. She was given one chance. No warm-up, no correction, no cue. She laid flat on the mat. Range Officer Delgado called in over comms. Shooter ready, silence. 3 seconds, then pop. The target rose. Lena exhaled. The world narrowed. The wind skipped once over the ridgeline. She calculated for drift, for drop. And she fired. The echo rang long and sharp. Metal rang. Then silence. Then a voice. Impact. But no reaction. Delgado didn't call a score. Didn't confirm. She waited. Breathing steady, heart waiting for something, anything. Then she saw it. Sergeant O'Halloran approaching. No clipboard. Just him, Cadet Torres. He said flatly. She stood. Sir. He didn't nod. Didn't blink. You hit the target. Yes, sir. But that wasn't the target you were assigned. Lena's blood turned. What? O'Halloran handed her a printout. Target 11A, yours was 11B. She scanned it. She didn't understand. I fired exactly where the coordinates pointed. He held up his hand. And that's the issue. The coordinates in your packet were incorrect. She froze. Sir, I triple-checked. I know. And if you'd been firing live, that mistake would have meant one thing: a dead civilian. Her throat closed. But I didn't make that mistake. No, he said. But someone gave it to you. That's when it hit. This wasn't an accident. Someone tampered with the envelope. And they wanted her to fall. She was escorted off the line. Not under arrest, just watched. Her weapon was taken. Her packet seized. The rumor spread before she reached the barracks. She hit the wrong target. She failed the test. She cracked under pressure. No one asked for her version. They just filled. In the gaps, Rickson was the loudest. Should have known. One lucky shot. And she thought she belonged. O'Halloran didn't defend her. Not publicly. And Lena didn't have enough proof. Just one impossible mistake. No one willing to listen. And the echo of a clean shot rendered meaningless. The next day, she was removed from the advanced candidate list, pending administrative review. She was allowed to remain at Fort Willoughby for now. But the message was clear. She had been tested, and someone had changed the test. That night, Lena sat alone in the empty supply room, lights off, door locked. She unfolded her range notes, every shot she had taken for the last 3 weeks, times, coordinates, conditions. Then she did something no one expected. She looked up who printed the evaluation envelopes, and she found the name, Cadet Travis. He worked night desk rotation, 2 days before the test, right when the packets were sealed. Lena didn't report it immediately. She knew how that would look. Accusation without proof would only further erode what little ground she had left. Instead, she played by their rules. She went to Sergeant O'Halloran's office, asked for a second chance. He stared at her. "You understand what you're asking?" "I do, if you're wrong." "I'm not." He sighed. "You have no proof." "Then let me show you instead." He leaned back, studied her. Then, slowly, he said, "Tomorrow, 600, no observers, no score sheets, just you and 1 shot." That morning, she returned to the range. No one else there, just her and O'Halloran. He handed her a sealed packet, this time, signed in front of her. He spoke quietly. "This isn't to get you back in the program. This is for me. I want to see if my gut was wrong about you." She nodded, laid prone, opened the envelope. "Target 12D, wind, 9 knots. She adjusted and fired. Ping, clean. O'Halloran didn't smile, but he stepped forward, looked down at the range monitor, confirmed hit, correct target. Then, after a pause, "I believe you." That afternoon, he pulled Travis aside. Private conversation, no audience. By evening, Travis had submitted a resignation from the trial program. He cited personal reasons. No one questioned it. No one mentioned Lena's name. But the next morning, her name reappeared on the candidate list. No announcement, just restored. And for Lena, that was enough. Because now they didn't have to like her. They just had to respect what couldn't be denied. She had taken the shot, the right shot, twice, and no one could take that back. Lena returned to the range 2 days later, not to prove anything, not to reclaim anything, but to train. Her name was back on the board, reinstated with no public explanation. Those who once ignored her now offered nods, short glances, a respectful distance. The jeers were gone, and yet Lena stayed quiet, not cold, not proud, just steady. At the end of that week, Sergeant O'Halloran asked her to stay behind. They stood alone at the tower overlooking the far range, the advanced zone, the final tier. "You handled that better than most officers I've served under," he said. "Didn't yell, didn't crumble, didn't see the point," she replied. He studied her. "You want to know something?" She nodded. "The moment you fired during that evaluation, I knew you hadn't missed. I watched the way you breathed. You weren't guessing. You were reading the wind like a second language. Then why did you let them pull me? Because I wanted to see what you'd do without the safety net. If you'd chase politics, blame, go over my head, and if I had, you wouldn't be here now." She didn't respond, because part of her understood. Fair, no, but honest, maybe. O'Halloran turned, pulled a small case from the tower locker, and opened it. Inside was a long-range competition tag issued only to the top 3 shooters each cycle. It was more than a badge. It was a ticket to special assignments, elite marksman teams, doors not open for most. He handed it to her. "You're not just qualified. You're top of this class." Her hands shook slightly as she took it. Not from nerves, from something else. "What about Rickson?" she asked. "He dropped out 2 days ago. Said the program was being diluted." She laughed once through her nose. "Of course he did. He'll learn, or he won't." Then his voice lowered. "But you already did." A week later, Lena stood at a regional competition, an open event, civilian and military, public, real eyes on real performance. She wore the same second-hand jacket, the same boots, but her sleeves were rolled, her gear flawless. The final round came down to her and one other, an officer from a recon unit, who had 10 years field experience. They stood shoulder to shoulder, loading quietly. No commentary, just numbers on screens. The announcer called, "Final shot, 1,200 meters, variable wind, 10 seconds to fire." The officer glanced at her, smirked, "You sure you're ready for this, cadet?" Lena didn't look at him. She adjusted, felt the breeze shift just slightly off-center, then fired. The silence that followed was heavy. A soft tone rang. "Bullseye." The other officer fired a second later, missed by 3 inches. The range went still, then erupted. But Lena didn't celebrate. She simply stepped off the platform, handed her scorecard to the marshal, and walked back to her seat. Later, a reporter approached. "Why didn't you stay for the trophy shot?" Lena shrugged. The target was the point, not the applause. The article ran the next morning. They mocked her at the range. They froze when she took the shot. But that wasn't the twist. The twist came later, at a quiet cafe 3 blocks from the barracks. Lena sat alone rereading field manuals. She wasn't hiding. She just didn't know what to do with all the attention. That's when Sergeant O'Halloran entered, holding an old envelope. He handed it to her. Inside was a faded photo of a younger O'Halloran, posed beside another sharpshooter, a woman. Lena blinked. "That your sister?" He shook his head. "That's Sergeant Dahlia Torres, my spotter. Best partner I ever had." Lena froze. "Torres?" He nodded. "Yeah, we were never related by blood, but she took me in when I didn't have a place. Changed my life." She looked closer at the picture, the resemblance, the name. "My mother's name was Dahlia." O'Halloran's eyes widened. "And in that second everything rewrote itself. She disappeared when I was little," Lena whispered. "Went overseas, never came back. I never knew why." He sat down, quiet. "She saved my life more than once," he said. "Always said she had a daughter back home she wanted to see again when the dust settled." Lena stared at the photo, then whispered, "She never did." O'Halloran lowered his gaze. "She was killed in action. We buried her outside Mosul. I never knew how to find her family." Lena reached for the photo like it was the last piece of a puzzle. She hadn't realized she was building. "Why didn't you say anything?" "I didn't know. Not until I saw how you moved, how you held the rifle. It wasn't just skill. It was her." He smiled faintly. "You didn't just earn your spot, Torres. You came back full circle." And in that moment she didn't feel like a cadet. She felt like legacy. Not the kind born from privilege. The kind born from quiet strength passed down in silence. And suddenly, she understood. The shot wasn't what changed everything. It was who she had always been. Now, finally, the world could see it too. Lena kept the photo. She didn't frame it, didn't post it online. She tucked it into the inside flap of her range journal right behind the pages where she'd written down every mistake, every correction, every win call. It didn't need to be public. It needed to be close. Knowing who her mother was didn't change the path she had taken. It just made the silence she had carried feel a little less lonely. She started arriving earlier for drills, not because she had to, but because the morning stillness felt different now, like it was something inherited. She imagined Dahlia had done the same, set up before anyone else, calibrated without fanfare, and spoken only when the shot demanded it. The others began to shift around her, not quickly, not with fanfare, but gradually. Cadets who once avoided her now asked quiet questions. One of them Jensen offered to spot for her during a timed round. Another asked for help adjusting his breath during exhale. They didn't apologize, and she didn't expect them to. Respect doesn't always come with words. Sometimes it comes with space, with letting someone stand without challenge. And that was enough. Rickson never returned to the program. Travis. He was reassigned to admin duty, officially. No explanation was given, but Lena saw it for what it was, quiet accountability. Not loud punishment, just a door gently closed behind him. As for O'Halloran, he changed subtly. He started referring to her not as Torres, the cadet, but Torres, the shooter. A small shift, but in their world, a shift like that carried weight. One afternoon, he approached her with a sealed folder. "This just came in from High Range Command. Thought you should read it." She opened it. It was a formal offer, Joint Precision Unit Pacific Sector. A rotating spot reserved for 1 elite candidate per year. Usually reserved for decorated military families or cross-service specialists. She looked up. "They know about they." "No," O'Halloran said. "They also know you passed every qualification by 12% margin." You weren't just the best in the group, you were the best in 5 years. She folded the letter. And you're okay with that? He shrugged. Your mother was the best spotter I ever had. But you're something else entirely. Better. He shook his head, more complete. They didn't hug. There were no tears. But Lena nodded once. And that was all that needed to be said. Joining the Joint Precision Unit wasn't glamorous. It was grueling. Remote deployments, long silences, near impossible expectations. But Lena excelled. She never missed a mark. And more importantly, she never fired without purpose. That restraint, that control, earned her something. Rare trust. Not from generals, but from those who stood next to her. The spotters, the watchers. The ones who knew that the real shot doesn't happen in the trigger pull. It happens in the decision. One night, during a deployment briefing in Okinawa, a younger recruit leaned over during lunch. I heard they call you the shot that froze the line. Is that true? She looked at him, thought about Rickson, about the range, about that morning when her target dropped and no one expected her to fire. And she said, maybe. But if they do, it's only because they finally noticed. Years passed. She stayed in service longer than she expected. She trained new cadets. She taught ethics in precision. She submitted a revised marksmanship training manual that was adopted for use in half the coastal academies. But the moment that stayed with her most wasn't a medal or promotion. It was a letter, delivered by courier, no return address. Inside, a folded paper, a photo of a younger Dahlia Torres standing in full combat gear, arm wrapped around a young, clean-shaven O'Halloran. On the back of the photo, written in faded pen, teach her to stand still. She'll know when to move. Lena placed the photo beside her own and smiled, because that's what legacy really is, not blood. But intention passed quietly from one steady hand to the next. When she retired, she didn't announce it. She packed up, left behind a spotless locker, donated her range logs to the Academy archive, and drove west, not to escape, to breathe, to remember without noise. She teaches now small arms safety, long-range ethics, posture under pressure. No one in her classes mocks anyone. She makes sure of it. And when one cadet, nervous, underprepared, alone, asked her after class, "What if no one thinks I belong here?" she answered gently, "Then that means you've already made them uncomfortable." That's a start. The cadet blinked. "Is that good?" "It is," Lena said. "Because they don't mock what they don't fear. They mock what they're afraid might change everything." She paused, then added, "Take your shot. Don't flinch." Outside the classroom hangs a photo, grainy, laminated, framed in simple wood. It's the image from the range. Lena, lying prone, rifle forward, just as the bullet leaves the barrel. In the corner, you can see the silhouettes behind her, watching, waiting, stunned. Below the photo is a single caption. She didn't need permission. She needed one shot. And beside it, the quiet name that changed everything. Torres, not inherited, chosen, earned with stillness, reclaimed with action, remembered with respect. Sometimes, the most powerful moment isn't the shot itself, it's the stillness before it. Lena Torres didn't raise her voice. She didn't demand space. She earned it through focus, through precision, through choosing restraint when others expected noise. They mocked her because they misunderstood quiet as weakness. But when it mattered, she proved that real strength isn't loud, it's measured, it's disciplined, and it doesn't flinch. If you've ever been doubted, overlooked, or underestimated, remember Lena. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to fight to be feared. You just have to stand still, breathe deep, and take the shot when it counts. Comment with the word respect if you believe dignity is earned not through noise, but through action, and that sometimes one shot can rewrite everything they thought they knew about you. Because quiet strength doesn't fade, it echoes.